Yes, we're starting 2 minutes early, and we've got lots to talk about: short, medium, and long range. Major storms going to form in the Gulf of Mexico. What kind of impacts will it have on the East Coast? Still not sure how this is all going to play out. In the meantime, it's nice and quiet and a little bit of a chill in the air, but much of the country is snowless. That's all going to be discussed in great detail tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by WeatherFlow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board, or at least it will be in a second. The link is also on the descriptor to this video and live stream. Uh, Tempest is an affiliate of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Use the coupon code for any purchase you make. The holidays are just around the corner, and this makes a great gift. And if you do make that purchase, the code is I want a weather station. And if you do, you get
10% off.
Well, Mr. Rea was supposed to join us at 8 o'clock, but he finished up his fabulous talk on the Star of Bethlehem early and has joined us at the regular time. The chairman, Scott Briller, got his name back on YouTube and hits the tip jar. Thank you, Scott. Welcome, everybody, to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show. We're on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Fridays and Saturdays, we usually take off unless there is a storm going on. We don't see us coming on this Friday and Saturday, but we will be back on Sunday. Make sure you got your notifications turned on so you don't miss us. And we are 19 subscribers away from 14,000, which is very nice. So if you like the show, hit the subscribe button and turn the notifications on so you don't miss us. All right, so we've got quiet weather, snowless weather. I have to show you this because this really blew my mind. Give me a minute here. I just sort of came up, and I remembered now when I saw this earlier today, Joe. You don't see this too often in the this time of year. But I'm going to pull up the European at 200. I think it was at 200 and something hours. Let me see. Which one was it? We'll let the map load.
Now, this is the operational European.
Yes, the operational.
Not Mrs. Van Shambles.
No, not and Shambles. No.
And Shambles.
And
yes.
Shambles. So this was the 200 and, you could use the 210 or the 216. Now, you know what? We'll use the 228 hour. Okay. And and look, for snow lovers, you have to, if there's one solace, it's the fact that nobody's getting anything anywhere of consequence. But this is the 222-hour, Joe, and it's valid for Thursday night, the 22nd of December, and nowhere, in the United States. Now we use the 540 thickness line. I'm going to draw the red over it, okay, so that you could see where it is. All right. So that line, which are the dash blue lines, the last dash blue line is 540. Okay. That usually, and we kind of use that as a judge as to where maybe the rain snow line is going to be. Sometimes in reality, it's probably closer to 546 than it is to 540, but we're going to use 540. It is, except for just touching Caribou and just to the north of International Falls, it is nowhere in the United States. So basically, if it were going to snow any place in the U.S., you'd have to go to the highest mountain peaks in various states in order to pull it off. And nothing. This is astonishing. And there was one other thing that I wanted to show everybody, because this was really actually. I thought this was in some levels amazing, in other levels a little disturbing. But I'm going to put the 2-meter temperature anomaly, okay? And I want everybody to notice that for this time frame, for this particular time frame, all of North America, virtually all of North America, is above average in temperatures. All of Europe, almost all of Europe, most of Asia except the southern part of Asia, where it's a little bit below normal. But there was one of the runs today where it was like everything was above normal, and I'm just moving it along here. So this is now at 240 on the European. So let me look at the GFS because maybe it was the GFS that had it. I mean, tell me where there's any cold air in here. In fact, here it is. It's right at this, virtually at this point. This is at 288 hours. All of Europe, except the Scandinavian countries, all of Asia, including the southern areas that were below normal on the European a few days before, most of North America, except the northwestern part of Canada and parts of the Southwest and back into California. The whole world is on, basically the whole northern hemisphere here is on fire in a blowtorch.
Jason Fox says it well for just about everybody. He said, wow, summertime map colors.
I mean, it's true. Look, it's truly astounding to me that I mean, you start out with areas that are below normal, and I get, and then they're gone. They're just gone. I mean, here's I'll just roll it back. I mean, this is actually back on Saturday when much of Europe was below normal, much of Asia below normal, particularly Siberia. But Eastern North America was above, the western part was below, Alaska was below. But as we go through all of this, all the below normals disappear. Actually, the areas that become below normal as you go through time, Joe, are mostly in the ocean. Up in the Arctic Ocean, Greenland's below normal, Alaska's somewhat below normal, easternmost Asia is below normal. I mean, this is just nuts. And this is just totally nuts. But it's a process. What can I tell you?
Well, according to Weather Trends 360, Bill Kirk, he said, unlike last year, the days leading up to Christmas this year are, and he puts this in capital letters, much warmer and less snowy than a year ago. Season-to-date snowfall is down 34% versus last year, 40% below average, and the 8th least in the last 38 years. Put it another way, snow cover right now across the contiguous United States, just 16% of the United States blanketed in snow versus 29%. You thought last year was bad with 29%, 16% now blanketed in snow. That's a full 13% below where we were at this time last year. Dramatically less snow in the western U.S. New England is the somewhat bigger winner, if you want to call them winners so far this season. An average snow cover for this time of the year would be closer to 34%. So that would be what you normally would expect in the early to middle part of December, 34% snow cover for the U.S. And here we are with just 16%. The only positive note here, one big benefit from the much warmer fall this year, is a 45% decline in flu cases versus 1 year ago.
All right, well that's good to know.
Last year the flu had the earliest spike in 13 years with an unusual Thanksgiving spike, but a healthier population during the holiday season is a minor plus if you are in retail sales and looking to sell all of those fur parkers and cold weather gear, which ain't flying off the shelves with the conditions that we have out there right now.
Well, it's the eighth least snowiest, which means that there were seven times where it was actually less snowier than it is now.
Right.
Well, I will also say, at least from Mr. Kirk's forecast, because he's been talking about that the increase in the amount of coastal storms is something that we're going to be seeing. So I would think last weekend system, which you kind of can regard as we had a front and then a wave that developed right on the coast. You had that, and then of course, with the models showing what they're showing for very early next week, at least that part, it must give him a little bit of encouragement in terms of the forecast to see that part of it. The cold air is a whole different story because there is none.
Well, the world snowfall, not just the United States, but the world snowfall shows snow continuing, according again to Bill Kirk, continuing to pile up in eastern Canada, which in part will allow southeast Canada and the northeast United States. That's us, folks. Those of you who live in the tri-state area or New England, according to Bill Kirk, the fact that the snow is piling up in eastern Canada will eventually pay a dividend down the road, a much colder winter core coming in the weeks and months ahead. So
All right,
it ain't looking pretty now if you're a winter weather lover, but take heed that supposedly things are going to change to quite a different story during January and on into February.
got to fix the Pacific. And we got to get rid of this trough that's from Alaska down to the West Coast. I think that's the thing. The Pacific is really the big player here, and that needs to change. And I suppose you could make a case for the fact that since we're in this pattern now, that at some point it will have to break. When that happens, I don't know, but it shall be what it shall be. In the meantime, let's get started with what's going on tonight, which really isn't a whole lot. With respect to current weather, as you look at the satellite loop, there actually is a little cold front moving through western New York and western Pennsylvania that's going to pass tonight with, very little fanfare. But it does reinforce the chillier air that seems to be in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states, and even down to me here in North Georgia, where it was 20 at my house for the low, and the airport got down to 19 under a clear sky last night. There was frost just about everywhere this morning, and including on windshields, and made it difficult to open car doors. We've got some clouds out in the Rockies and in the Central Plains that look worse than they are, and also some cloudiness up in the Northwest. I think what's more important, though, is with respect to what models are showing for later this week, you can already see the Gulf of Mexico and the Northwest Caribbean priming with moisture. A lot of clouds down there, very disorganized, clearly, and we're not talking about a tropical storm here, but this is this buildup of moisture is going to result in a developing low in a couple of days, and the questions, I have several questions regarding how this is all going to play out, Joe. I think this is going to be, at the very least for Florida, particularly the peninsula, not so much the panhandle, but for Florida and for the southeast coast up to North Carolina, they're going to get into some rain, and I also think they're going to get into some gales over the weekend with this thing. Now, what happens after that? I think that's the big question, and I think a lot has to do with how the upper air sets up in the east as to whether it's going to be able to lift all the way up, or does it partially lift up, or does it does something weird where the upper low and the surface low, part of it gets pinned back, and you get a lead low that pushes up northeastward. But still a lot of questions in my mind as to how this is going to go.
From time memoriam, when you start talking about beyond 5 days and a prospective major coastal storm, if you start talking about like 10 or 12 days in advance or whatever, the models always, they waffle. One run will show the thing missing us completely, and then there'll be another that'll take it straight up the coast, and sometimes they'll even bring it to the west of us. So, the potential certainly is there. For something significant along the eastern seaboard. My goodness, the GFS today, the 12Z run, they went from the eastern Gulf of Mexico along the Florida coast. They bring this thing up to about Cape Hatteras, and then all of a sudden, the thing does a loop-de-loop and heads southeast. And you say to yourself, how's that going to happen?
Well, it's an occluded low with a point of occlusion. So the surface low kind of pinwheels back onto the upper low, and then you get the surface lows on the triple point, and that that pushes up, into Virginia and into northeastward. So you kind of does this weird, as you said, loop-de-loop. It's just it's a little on the bizarre side. Uh, yeah, I'm still kind of I'm still trying to figure it all out. So the one thing I can say that I think is a certainty is going to be the fact that for all practical purposes, there are no snow issues with this. I mean, this is all rain up and
Yeah,
down the coast. I mean, maybe when we get closer in some of the higher mountain elevations in western North Carolina and western Virginia, the highest mountaintops, 35, 44,000 feet and above, maybe somebody sees some wet snow up there. But for all purposes, this is rain. The issues are going to be heavy, rain and how heavy, and wind and how strong. Those are the two main issues to figure out.
absolutely. And back in the time, a different time, when we made reference in the wintertime to a well-behaved storm, we would use that term for a storm that we were confident would be mostly or all snow. In other words, there would not be any headaches in trying to determine whether we would have a mix to sleet, ice, or rain. We would say it's a well-behaved system. It's going to stay mostly snow, and we're going to get X amount of snow. Well, this system coming up, the one that we've been talking about, is also going to be well-behaved. Well-behaved in the sense that, no, it's not going to be snow. It'll be rain, mainly rain, probably all rain, except again for the highest terrain areas where there might be a little bit of sleet or wet snow mixing in, but only for the very highest. For 99% of the affected region, it's going to be wet. It's going to be rain. And to be able to just say that flat out without having to worry about anything else mixing in, that's a well-behaved storm.
We've got some snow showers in upstate New York and northern Vermont. I don't know how much of that is actually reaching the ground. Also in the St. Lawrence River Valley on the Canada side, and you can see streaks of snow running across northeastern Lake Huron and points eastward, and also on the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. But the rest of the radars are quiet all the way down to Florida, all the way west to Texas. There's some light precipitation, snow in parts of Colorado and even into New Mexico, a little bit of rain shower activity in northwest Texas, and a little bit of light snow in eastern parts of Nebraska and in eastern North Dakota. And then the west is also very, very, very quiet. Barry Goldberg bangs the tip jar tonight with an amount. Now, the amount is. Okay, so all right, gotcha. So he banged the tip jar, right? Yes.
Yeah.
This amount indicates that we will have our first measurable snowfall in the northern Mid-Atlantic. So, in other words, he's saying Happy New Year and beyond. And I might pretty much, from what I'm seeing, maybe agree with him on that. There's not a whole lot of hope certainly through Christmas. WPC has picked up on its rainfall forecast because now they've pushed up the 1.5 inches. So this is through next Tuesday night. So this is their view. This is the only storm we're dealing with in the eastern part of the United States. But they've pushed the 1.5 inches up to New Jersey, to the lower Hudson Valley, to southern Connecticut, Long Island, parts of Rhode Island, and eastern Massachusetts. The 1-inch line goes a little bit further north than that. The half-inch line goes all the way to Pittsburgh and on up into northern Maine. 2.5-inch amounts in coastal eastern Virginia, eastern North and South Carolina. You get down to Florida, the east coast of Florida, about halfway, let's say from Daytona southward, in that orange area, that's 5 inches of rain or more, with several inches for much of central and south Florida. Also up to about 1 inch all the way back into southeastern Tennessee. We have 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches plus indicated from Texas northwestward on up into southern Colorado and New Mexico. And we have some heavy rains for northern California being indicated north of San Francisco with up to several inches there. The rest of the country, very, very little, if anything, over the next 7 days. And, the probability for 2 inches isn't much, and it's just a small area in north central New York with a little bit of lake effect that'll probably go on later tonight and tomorrow after that front goes by. And then you've got this area here in the southern half of Colorado and northern New Mexico, where there's a high probability of at least two. I'm just going to, for laughs, put 8 up there. And there's even an area in northeastern New Mexico where there's a 50% or higher probability for at least 8. Otherwise, 8, nothing. Nothing in the lakes, nothing in the plains, nothing in the Northwest, nothing in the Northern Rockies. And this is from tomorrow. This is the period 12Z Wednesday to 12Z Friday. Okay, this is a 48-hour forecast that I've got up here. And if I go back to 0Z, just for laughs, I usually use the 72-hour, and then I was looking at something yesterday. I switched it to 48. So let's just bring it back to 72 so it covers tonight. Oh.
The one thing that really is impressive to me,
no change,
was when I was looking at the European, the 12Z run, and at 15Z Thursday, December 14th, the amplitude, the size, the utter, it's a gigunda.
The enormity.
Pressure.
The word you're looking for is enormity.
Ginormous.
Where is this enormous large high? Joe?
I mean, the center of this at 500 millibars. The center of this high is parked right over northern Minnesota, along the north rim of Lake Superior.
And what time frame was this?
This would be for 15Z on Thursday.
All right. Well, I'm bringing that.
December
I will bring that map up as I speak. So 15Z Thursday, there's a 1043 high in southern Ohio at the surface. You want the 500?
Right.
Just a moment, please. Here's your 500 millibar map. There you go. It should be up on the screen momentarily.
I mean, look at that thing. Who would have expected something like that, at this time of the year? But there it is. It is a humongous ridge of high pressure. And, you say to yourself, well, why is it not, cold across the United States? There's your reason right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a cold looking map.
No, it isn't. It isn't at all. It's above normal heights, just the whole United States and much of Canada above normal heights. And you can thank the fact that you have troughing from Alaska southward to off the California coast, and you got a trough off the East Coast, so you're left with a big ridge in the middle. Now there is a disturbance in Southern California. I'm just going to back this up. There's energy that came in yesterday into the Pacific Northwest that's now dropping into the Southwest, and that's what's causing the snow in New Mexico and southern Colorado. That upper low is moving eastward as the ridge moves eastward, and now there's a northern stream system that drops down to the from the plains and sort of grabs it, and here's where you get that low cutting off over the Florida Panhandle by the time we get to Sunday. And see, here's the problem with this, Joe. There's a couple of things happening here that I'm not sure of. First of all, okay, so you got this. Now, the European, there's a northern part of this jet that drops in, and you see it there, and it just sort of phases with it, but it never really lifts it up. It just kind of phases with it, and then the south gets left behind, the north goes on its merry way. So, again, yeah, I mean, what are you going to do with this? As far as what's going to happen with all that southern energy, I mean, the main upper low down there gets left behind. I mean, some of it sort of phases in here, and then it goes out. Then you have the GFS, which you can barely find the northern shortwave on this view. It has a really vigorous, that northern plains upper low dives down and cuts off very vigorously over Alabama and Georgia. But the northern shortwave, if you look on the upper right, you could just see the bottom of that trough. It's way, way up. Doesn't even get involved. And the GFS basically takes this whole southern trough and lifts it up the east coast. For that, the last frame, the frame that's up there on the screen now, when it lifts up into Chesapeake Bay, is for Tuesday afternoon. I mean, I kind of find both scenarios sort of odd. So I don't know which one of these is even close to reality. So that leaves us with the Canadian. Might as well take a look at that. And the Canadian, kind of brings that northern shortwave down, starts to lift the southern stream up, and then it phases it completely and has a cutoff near North Carolina by Tuesday afternoon, and then it goes out. So, I mean, all of these runs show a very vigorous and dynamic system in slightly different ways. And and then as a result, the surfaces that they come up with are all a little bit different.
Well, according to Judah Cohen today, he says, I believe we have reached a, quote, break the glass moment for winter weather enthusiasts.
I thought he said that yesterday.
Now, yesterday he said something. Yesterday he said that he didn't describe it as a break the glass moment. I think he's trying to figure out different adjectives to describe the perilous position that we're in terms of wintry weather. He's calling us the break the glass moment. And he said, and if you go to his Twitter site, you could see he's dressed up now. He said, I'm bringing out the big guns now. My snow sweater for me.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
And my beer can.
And the beer can, yes.
For inspiration, not only for me, but also for old man winter. So
yes. By the way, everybody's desperate when they looked at the GFS today and they saw magenta there. On the last on the 192 hour, which is Wednesday afternoon, where there's this area of sleet from coastal Maine down to about coastal Connecticut and Long Island. Okay, I mean that's how bad it is when they start looking at that and getting excited over it. So anyway, that's the GFS. Now I don't know. Did you see the European last night?
Last night? No, I did not see
You did not see the 0Z European last night. Okay, so that's worth looking at because that last night's run did a full phase of everything just to the west and, the trough axis at 80 and cutting off and all the rest of it. So here comes a deepening low off the southeast coast, Joe. That's a 973 low just east of Norfolk by Monday morning, a 964 low at Atlantic City, with a million isobars around it, and then it's a 967 low over Montauk by Monday evening. I mean, if this were to verify, this would be a really powerful storm if this happens. I don't know. I just don't know that a full phase here is something that's even realistic, given what's going on. But this is what the European did last night.
But that's last night. But the 12Z today.
The 12Z today kind of looks like one of the GFS runs, which has that same. Hold on, I gotta get the right time frame here. So let's go to the 12Z, and all right, come on. So here we go. So there's your Gulf low starts to form. The low crosses Florida. So now this is where, as I said earlier, I think East Coast of Florida is going to get wind and rain out of this, and probably gales, along with coastal Georgia, coastal South, and North Carolina. The surface low is there east of Jacksonville, but you see how that's almost occluded. That's occluded, and there's probably a low at that point of occlusion that's up, in eastern North Carolina that pushes northward, and then that low goes out. The southern low is part of the upper low that gets left behind. Again, this is today's European, which frankly wouldn't be terrible. I mean, it'd probably be nasty for a while, but it won't be crazy like it was on the 0Z. And then you get cold air that comes in behind it. Another one of these cold shots like we're getting now, which is effectively dirty cold air. And then, of course, after that, there isn't the rain snow line. The magical 540 line is completely out of the United States, and you actually have to go a fair distance up into southern Canada in order to get to it. So, there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of things on the table, and we're not going to solve this problem now, other than to say that, there is risk, I think, from Sunday night into Monday night that we could have a major system somewhere along the eastern seaboard. I think that's a fair statement to make now, and then we'll come back to it tomorrow to see where it goes from there.
Okay, so what else is there to talk about?
Well, I have I did see, well, being that I'm always looking at things, um, for you snow lovers, the CFS, which is the can't forecast and then the four-letter S word, um, will have you excited because it actually had the pattern changing after Christmas. It's consistent, and it had a fairly decent snow system for New Year's Eve, believe it or not. And I'm looking at, this is the 12Z, so I want to see if it's changed the overall flavor of the upper air. And the CFS goes out 756 hours. Okay, so it does look hopeful as far as colder on the CFS starting a day or so after Christmas. So there's that. And then but there's the ridge. By January 5th, we got a ridge position in the east. And then that goes away, and then there's this monstrous trough in the eastern part of the United States and this monstrous ridge in the west. So the CFS still seems to be on a path to say that we're going to change right after. We're going to start seeing the pattern changing around Christmas or right after Christmas. I'm okay. I'm not going to fight it, but it does show it. I'm just I'm at this skeptical point with all of this stuff. I just am.
The one thing I have waited all of my life for and have never seen, and we came close in 1970-71, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, is a huge snowstorm coinciding with New Year's Eve night. I'd always wanted to see what would happen if we had one of those 1 to 2 foot jobs that occur on New Year's Eve. How many people would show up at Times Square to watch the ball drop in that kind of a scenario? As I said, in 1970, there was a storm that dropped about 6 inches of snow on New York, but the snow started right after the ball drop. When I woke up the next morning, it was about a half a foot of snow for New Year's Day, 1971. But that's about as close as I think we have come. So now you're saying that there may be some kind of a threat or risk New Year's Eve, and that would be the irony. That would be an irony of it all. Would be that we've had nothing remotely resembling a winter or even snowy pattern in December, and then all of a sudden, come New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, it all kicks in all at once with a significant snowfall.
So here, I'll show you what the CFS had. Folks, don't take us seriously. I mean, we're just starting, just having a little fun. So here's the 30th, Joe. It'll be on the screen in a moment. This is the 30th. There's a low near Wilmington, Hatteras, somewhere over there. There's snow in much of Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, and Michigan. And the low goes out, just offshore. This is on the 31st. Well, this is actually on the 30th at this is the 0Z, the 31st, where it's got snow from Delaware to Long Island. And then on the next frame, it's starting to come to an end. So this actually would be ending early New Year's Eve morning, as far as the CFS is concerned.
Yeah.
So it does have that. Then it's got another system coming around I guess, what is that, the 5th? It's got something. It's got a low. It's got an 85 low in eastern Kentucky that goes up to Buffalo. And then it's got a brutally cold air that comes down behind it. It's got a 480, what is that, a 480, 498, 492 thickness in northern Minnesota. And the 540s are, behind all of this is all the way down into northern Florida. So, it's got it again, this is the CFS, can't forecast what. So, it's been persistent in showing a changeable pattern. Oh, and then an ice storm for me around the 7th, Joe. Got an ice storm in North Georgia, northern South Carolina, North Carolina, and on up into southern Virginia, with a coastal low. that is off North Carolina by the 10th, and snow up at the Long Island, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the CFS for you. Take it for what it's worth.
And kind of like what you've been saying about how forecasters keep pushing it back, the cold air that is. Al Patchy on the chat board says, I like to read Larry Cosgrove's posts. He seems to think that come January, after a, quote, thaw, winter will kick in.
After a thaw?
January,
wait. After a thaw? A thaw from what?
Thaw. I don't know.
A thaw from what?
I don't know.
I mean, go on. Go ahead.
He said after a thaw, winter will kick in later January into February. So according to what he's saying, Larry Cosgrove said, yeah, we're going to get cold. It's going to get wintry. Late January, early February. So it's gone now from late December, early January to early January to mid-January.
But my point is, in order for you to have a thaw, it would have to be cold before that. So no, it makes no sense. What
maybe
thaw?
Maybe he's making reference to what you just pointed out around New Year's Eve into early January, where it gets cold and maybe a bit snowy, and then it warms up I don't know.
None of us know. To tell you the truth, none of us know. Look, the bottom line, it can't possibly get any worse than what it is. When you look at the maps at Summit today from that standpoint, it can't possibly get any worse. So for snow lovers, and for those of you who don't want snow and don't want winter weather, I know you're all dancing in the street, and I get that.
Back in 2005, I was asked to be part of, believe it or not, the Rockefeller Center Christmas show at Radio City. They filmed all of the local TV weathercasters, and I was part of this group. I actually, my appearance was kind of like one of 9 in the Brady Bunch box, and the basic thing was that all of the TV weathercasters were forecasting very kind of like what we're seeing right now. Well, too bad it's going to be too warm for snow. It's going to be well above normal, and unfortunately, Santa's not going to have anything to fly in a sleigh. And then all of us broke into a song. What is Christmas with no snow? What is Christmas with no white snow? And all of a sudden, snow begins to fall onto the stage. In other words, all of the high-priced, I wasn't one of those high-priced, I never got high prices for what I did television, but all of the TV weather people who were saying no snow for Christmas are wrong. And then that huge projection screen at Radio City suddenly fills up with what looks like a blizzard. In other words, the TV weather guy said no snow, but there was snow. And maybe that'll happen this year. We'll all keep saying no snow, and then out of left field, all of a sudden something will come along and bring us a surprise snowstorm on Christmas morning. I don't know.
Dream a little dream. Dream, dream, dream.
The guy, I don't know if he's still doing it at Radio City. I mean, they had a very realistic looking Santa Claus. I mean, if you needed somebody to look like and talk like Santa, this guy at the Radio City Music Hall was the guy. And he's like running like a chicken right ahead all over the stage saying, I've got to do this, I got to do that. And then all of a sudden he stops and says, wait a minute, I need the weather. And down comes the big screen, and all of us pop up with our pessimistic snow forecast. And it was only for a year or two that was, but at least I could say now I was on the big screen at Radio City. for how many, don't blink your eyes, because that's how fast I was there and gone.
I was not part of that.
No, even if you were, Joe, they like as I just said, pretty much, boom. The heavy hitters were the ones who were on for longer than 2 seconds. The Al Rokers and the Sam Champions, and I basically I was one of those who was bringing up the rear, so to speak.
Well, you were invited to the party. I was not.
Well, I'm sorry.
Just pointing it out, you know.
I don't know. I don't know if your friend was there. I don't think he. I don't know if he was. I don't remember anymore.
Oh, you know what? I've had. Let
Can we move on to Briller
yeah,
Jeopardy?
let's please.
All right. Yeah, Rich Rothmansky, Sam Champion, LOL.
Oh, and Fled Weather, I got the maps you sent me, and I'm just trying to digest them all. So I'll try to bring them up tomorrow. I didn't have a chance to do what I need to do in order to get them on the air. So, but thank you for sending to me. I do appreciate it.
So here we go. This is going to be a lot easier than last night because he doesn't provide us with 2 temperatures. He only provides us with 1. On this edition of Briller Jeopardy, in the following 5 cities, what was the average low in December? See, yesterday we had to figure out what was the average high and the low, and it was
Right.
totally
It got a little
confusing.
confusing. Yes.
Yes.
It was
So
challenging.
the first on our list is Dallas, Texas. Average low in December, Joe.
41.
Ooh. Tom Seaver would have liked that number. And if it were a snake, it would have bit you.
So I was very close, in other words.
Very close.
Very close.
Jason Schaefer said 48. That's too far.
Right.
And Joe
41.
Z said 48.
And that's too low.
John Melander said too low. It's 38. No.
It's
Michael
too
McGuire,
low.
47. 58 for Keith James II. Anthony, so close, 39.
So if I said 41 and Anthony says 39, is it possible, Joe, just possible, is it even conceivable that it was 40?
Whoop, whoop.
Okay.
40. There you go. So how about the mile-high city of Denver,
Well,
Colorado?
how about the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado? Oh, God,
Yes.
this is Denver. Denver always throws me off because it's like, what, the high today was 70, the low was 7
minus 6.
or something like that. I will say,
Rich
I'll say
Rothmansky, by the way, already got it. So.
Oh, he did. I was going to say 25.
No,
but that was too high.
Rich got on the nose with 18.
18 is the average low for the month. Wow.
How about the Motor City of Detroit?
I'll say 29.
Not low enough.
Not low enough. Okay.
Not low enough. And every time I get my hair cut, the young lady who cuts my hair, when it's all over said and done, she says, "You're 29 today, Joe." I said, "I wish."
Yeah.
Precipitation got it.
And what did Christina Pedia say?
25.
25. Okay.
25. Ledwetter had 26. Bella Lugosi had 23. So did Eileen. Where was it? I lost it. Eileen Berry had 23. And Rick B wants to say that Larry C writes up a good article on weather. Well, we know that. Larry Cosgrove's life is weather. So.
Yes, exactly. All right. Go on.
How about your favorite? And so is Fred and Ethel's favorite.
Albuquerque?
No, the other place that they would have loved to have visited if they won the contest.
Oh, Honolulu.
Honolulu.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm just so, my knowledge of Hawaii is not a lot. I don't know, 65?
No, but Michael McGuire right off the bat got it. Magic year for the Mets, 69.
69. Okay.
69.
I wasn't far.
John Melander had 67. Ledwetter 64. Bela Lugosi 6. I don't know what he was thinking of.
Probably
Mauna Kea.
Yeah, either that or just fat finger and didn't hit the keyboard, or hit the keyboard wrong.
Right. Last one. Houston.
Houston. So what did I say for Dallas? Dallas was 40?
Dallas was 40, yes.
So I'll say I'll for Houston I'll say 40, 48.
Joe, congratulations.
Really?
You got it.
I on the
48.
nose?
48 on the nose.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll just leave you with this, folks. If I'm just looking at the 0Z from last night's GFS, okay? Because now we're getting, usually at this time of night, they populate it with everything after 384 hours as they go out to 800 and whatever it is, 840. And I just brought it up on the screen. So this is the 432 hour. And while it's a little bit better in the east, you still have this troughing that goes from, pretty much from Alaska down to the west and into the southwestern part of the United States. Okay, so that ain't good. But the CFS, as we know, is doing what it's doing, and we know the reputation. The reason why I say about that about the CFS is that it is notorious for doing colder long ranges, and then at the last minute, just as you just are about to get there, it flips. Okay, so I'm just it's still holding on. I'm just saying. Anyway. That's it. Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the top of the chat board. It's also on the descriptor to this video. Tempest is an affiliate of the Joe and Joe Weather Show. Use the coupon code I Want a Weather Station for anything you purchase. And if you do, what do they get, Joe?
They get 10%
Off.
That's that 10% off. Yeah.
Yes. All right. So I got nothing else to add tonight. Do you?
No, nothing.
Nothing. Okay. So everybody, we will. What about all our super chat hitters tonight? So we
Barry
had
Goldberg.
right.
And did we have anybody else?
We had the chairman Scott Briller who got his name back
Oh,
on as a moderator because he lost his ID, but he got it back. So we've
oh,
got Scott and we've got Barry. Thank you both for hitting the tip jar tonight. Most appreciated. And hopefully, by the way, we won't have to wait till 22-24 as opposed to 2024. All right. Have a great night, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see what the models do with this, with regards to the system for that's going to develop in the Gulf of Mexico for late in the weekend, early next week. Night, night.
99, 91 likes.